Welcome to Start Lines and Swag Bags, presented by the Flying Pig Project. The use of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as running or health advice. This podcast is not intended to replace any professional medical advice. Thank you for your support.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Start Lines and Swag Bags. My special guest today is Morty. Hopefully he won't be here too long because after about 30 seconds of being pet, he tends to bite me. I am back though with my trusty teleprompter. My goal is to absolutely get this in one take. And the good news is this is only take 3. So, cross your fingers. Okay. Before I go any further, I have to say I am blown away by all the words of support I've gotten over the last week with just 2 episodes done. People DM'd me, we loved it. We loved your show. We can't wait to hear the next one. And that to me is humbling and mind-blowing at the same time. When I first came up with this idea, the biggest fear of anybody starting a podcast is anybody going to listen? And I cannot thank you enough for those words of encouragement. All right, but let's move on to the idea of what these Sunday episodes are really going to be about. First of all, they give me an opportunity to talk about things that maybe I didn't get to talk about during the episode when I was filming with Nicole. Nicole was one of the first people who agreed to be on the show. And when we were finalizing a date, she sent me an email saying, this is in person, right? What? Confession. The thought of doing an actual in-person episode was nothing I even ever thought of doing. I thought this was going to be 100% online. I think my answer to her was, sure, come on over. While in my brain, it came out, sure, come on over. But I have to say, in hindsight, it was such a great idea. If you don't know Nicole, she comes with such energy and such a great attitude, and she is a podcast gem. And if you listened, you heard her talk about her bad swag. If you didn't listen, please go back and decide what you would say to someone if they offered you to be measured after you just finished a race. That's a hard no for me, for sure. But second, all right, we need to get into the first race elimination of the official Start Lines and Swag Bags race bracket to determine my favorite race I've ever done. There are a few disclaimers, or actually this week it's one disclaimer. When I made the brackets, and I know in the last episode I talked about how it was hard to go from 36 to 24 to ultimately 16. When I did get to the 16, I had all their names on paper, and I flipped them all over, and with closed eyes, I picked 2 at a time, and those were the 2 that would go up against each other in the initial round. And when I looked at the board to start doing this episode, there was one match that really stood out that I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So that's the one I'm going to do first. So for the first elimination round, we're going to be comparing my experiences with the Pettit Indoor Marathon Relay and the 4 on the 4th. Now, for those of you who don't know, the 4 on the 4th is a 4-mile race that's held on July 4th in Elmhurst. It also happens to be part of the CARA circuit, the Chicago Area Runners Association. So it attracts runners of all abilities, but a lot of really competitive runners. I think this past year, 2024, the winner came in at a little over 18 minutes. 18 minutes, 4 miles. Now, personally, I had never heard of this race before joining Fast Track Racing Team. And I think it's fair to say that out of all the team races that I've experienced or seen happen in the past, oh my gosh, 5-6 years, 4 on the 4th is the biggest. We have a tent there, 2 or 3 tents, barbecues, hot dogs, because we're able to set all this up really close to the finish line. And because it's a 4-mile race, the people who tend to be, fast, like really fast, it turns out that their cool downs normally happen around the time that other people on the course can definitely use their support and the attaboys. And that's really cool. And then on that final stretch to the finish line, as more and more people finish, more and more people join in the cheering. And not only that, people start to jump in and support people in that last final push to the finish line. True sportsmanship there, true teammates at the very heart. And this past year, nobody fact check me, I think Fast Track Racing Team had 65 runners on the course out of the, I think, 1,100 who were running. Now, I first ran it in 2019, and it was my only second race. It was the second race since I had joined Fast Track, running with the Fast Track singlet. My friend Tom Hayes, we had talked before the race, and he had a goal. He wanted to beat an hour, and we were both interval people. So I said, I have a plan. I guarantee we're going to get it under the hour. And we finished at 56:35 on point. Fun side note, Tom is actually the friend I ran into at Trader Joe's 2 days ago, who was like, I'm listening to your podcast and I love it. So big shout out there. Of course, it didn't happen in 2020. That's all we need to say about that. I did run it in 2021. I took 13 and a half minutes off my time, and I came in just shy of 43 minutes. Big improvement. I mean, it's a heck of a course. It's only 4 miles, but because of an overpass on Robert Palmer Drive, you do end up having to do some downhill, uphill. And the last, I want to say, quarter to half mile at the end, straight uphill to the finish. I actually haven't run it since then. I did not go in 2022, and I assumed the role of spectator in 2023 and 2024. In 2023, I was fortunate enough to meet Carrie Pinkowski. For anyone who is not familiar with that name, he, of course, is the race director of the Chicago Marathon. And that was a lot of fun that year. This past year, in 2024, Elmhurst Running Club, who runs the race, who hosts this event, reached out, and I actually had a photographer from my company as the finish line photographer. So, I've had a lot of other ways to be there and really, be there. Lost my words. 2 other things to mention as I compare the races, though. First, there's the swag. Now, I think I have to put the microphone down to do this, so hold on. This is 2019. And this was 2021. Now, I don't remember why 2021 was 4 on the 3rd. Because it's always been 4 on the 4th. And I think it had something to do with how they were running the race post-COVID that they did it on the 3rd. I don't know. I will say, though, they're very nice shirts. They're great swag. You'd think I would have learned maybe to get the men's because I'm not a V-neck type of person, but okay. The other factor, that I take into consideration when talking about a race is, just the commute. For me, Elmhurst is not even 20 minutes away, especially when you're going at 6 o'clock in the morning, and parking is plentiful. Overall, yeah, I love this race. Um, on my website for the show notes, you will see group pictures from 2019, 2021, 2023, and 2024. And it's very interesting just when I actually sat down and looked at the difference between 2019 and 2024 and how many faces are the same and how many are new. But okay, now we have the Pettit Marathon Relay. Now, I admit I knew nothing about this race. The only things I knew were that Matt on Fast Track had done the marathon multiple times. It was one of his favorite races. Um, but I really didn't, I had no idea. But if you have ever talked to Sabrina, the founder of the Skokie Swifters, she can pretty much talk you into doing anything. And not only did I fully agreed, I also realized it would have been smack dab in the middle of my marathon training. So I thought it was actually a pretty good fit. So there was some strategy, when I signed up, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. And boy, don't those three words get us a lot, at the time. And when I say, folks, I went into this blind, I'm not kidding. I was assigned to a team. And if memory serves me, the only person I knew on that team was Rebecca, but I think I had met her twice. The two other people on my team, I did not know at all. Now they of course were Swifters, but because I don't get out there as much as I would like to, I don't know as many people on the Swifters. But that was okay. I was told to bring certain things, and I was told where to be. But like, if you've ever run a relay, like a marathon relay, and you've never run at an ice rink, the amount of times I just kept saying, "Trust Sabrina, trust Sabrina, trust Sabrina," unbelievable. The day of the race, the commute was not bad. It was in Milwaukee. I was able to drive right up. The parking was great. I did elect to drive up and drive back on the same day. I know most of the team stayed up that night, which probably wouldn't have been a bad idea. Out of the 12 of us, though, I don't think anybody had actually done this event. So most of us really had no idea what we were walking into. I do remember very specifically walking into the arena, and there were several teams from DW Running. Now, I, of course, fully know who DW Running is, and they're a very competitive group. And the other 11 people that were with me were like, who? I was like, all right, this is all I'm going to tell you. When you switch the timing chip, the whole idea is your runner comes off, you switch the chip, and you go back out. And when you go back out, you have, you're being timed. This whole thing is being timed, but you have to not crash in to somebody coming around the turn. And so all I said was, I'm just like, don't step in front of them. Just don't do it. But I have to say, throughout the entire race, never once did anybody cut me off. Never once did I feel like I was cutting someone else off. I mean, it's amazing how well it's like flawless. You should go do the race, and then you'd understand what I was saying. But okay, here's how it actually works. You have a team, and the team can be 2, 3, 4. I think it can be more people. And at the end of the day, the group needs to run 95 laps around a 443 meter track. Now, I did look that up because I remember doing my 2 laps, and it felt longer than just like an 800, and it wasn't. It was an 886. Okay. But sorry, I have to stop. It doesn't matter how many loops a particular runner on your team does. The only important part is that the runner on the course has the chip on their foot. And you do your 2 laps, and for our team it was 2 laps, and you did it, I think, 11 or 12 times. I think I did it 11 times, and then because it ends on an odd number, I gave up a lap so that our anchor could run the final 2. All right. But, a lot of you know me, and I am like an interval runner. Like, I'm not, I don't, yeah. That's a long distance for me. And I know a lot of you are like, really? No, it is. Especially coming off, I was in the middle of marathon training. I was actually injured. I had done a half marathon 3 weeks before that I was not recovered from. So physically, I was not ready for this race. And mentally, it just seemed, very, very daunting. But the interesting thing is, when it started, it was like magic. It it runner after runner went out, got it done. We had a system in place. There were 3 teams, and we kind of like had a joke, hey, who can get your runner out there fastest? Um, the amount of rest that you got was directly correlated to the speed of the other members on your team. I was the slowest member on our team, so I ultimately then got technically the least amount of rest, because by the time you are done and maybe you warm up, you put something on to warm up because you're in an ice rink, and you stretch, maybe some water or food, but before you know it, you're right back out there. So water, nutrition, I mean, it's really, really tricky. It's not like you're doing a continuous movement and you're used to that. It's you move and then you completely stop altogether, and then you have to go again. And after a while, that really does begin to take a toll, and you could just see the exhaustion setting in as the hours went by. My team completed it in 3 hours and 45 minutes. But the story doesn't end there. No, no. My team took third in the overall women's category, which, what? It, it's a team effort, but when you're the slowest person on the team, those other 3 ladies, it was Rebecca, Vanessa, and Alex, you know, the 4 of us ended up on the podium, and we ended up on the podium, get this, with the team from DW Running. Now, I know there's a lot of you that are like, so what? For me, that is the first and probably last time I will ever stand on a race podium accepting uh, third place or place with DW runners on the same podium. That's I got to tell you. But I'm not done. I mean, there were several people up there who recognized me from Fast Track. That was fun. I ran into Wes Eiler. He was waiting to get up on the podium too. He's someone I've known since 2018 through running with Extra Mile. But hands down, the best was this guy named Bill Schneider. He is, I gotta say, he's the announcer. God, Bill, I wish I knew exactly your part. Do you run the whole thing? I don't know. But, see, we still had one team on there that took a little longer than the other teams. And at some point, he came over and he started talking to the Swifter team. We all got to know each other. He was actually in the back row of our after the run picture. He and I had a little one-on-one chat where I was telling him that I knew Matt, and he with such excitement, took me over to the wall where Matt's name is on the wall, and he's like, he's a hero here, and it was like this weird bonding moment that was fantastic. The picture in the notes of him and Sabrina, he's wearing the medals that went to the last of our teams, because they also had placed. I mean, just amazing overall. And a fun fact, Bill, is that 3 months later, I was volunteering at the Wisconsin Marathon at the finish line, and the voice sounded so familiar. And I can't. Would you believe? There's Bill Schneider. There he is, right there. Small world. Small world. I suppose that what I'm really trying to get across is there's nothing about this race I didn't love. I mean, was it hard? Okay, I don't think it was hard per se physically. I of course had issues that made it a little harder. I was pretty beat up from training. If you've never done it, is it hard mentally? Yeah, because you have no idea, um, what it's going to be. Real quick, we of course have to look at the swag from this race. Hang on. That's the shirt. This is a great shirt. I love this shirt. And this is the medal for being third place. Now, something else about this race that kind of also made it special was they don't do participation medals. And that's fine. I can understand that, because for a relay, you don't really know at the end how many people actually ran it, and that's fine. But Sabrina, our wonderful captain, had bought us all medals that she was going to present to us after the race for participating. And there was no words. As it turned out, all 3 teams that we took up there did actually end up placing and coming home with Pettit medals, but to have that other medal also made the event, really kind of special. So there you go. You got the 4th on the 4th and the Pettit Indoor Marathon Relay. I envision people, I don't know why I think this, talking into their devices or talking to themselves and thinking, oh my God, it's definitely going to be this one, or there's no way she can't pick that one. Because I think it's pretty obvious in both of my descriptions that at the end of the day, I love both of these races. And the fact that it literally became like these 2 races up against each other blew my mind. But I do have to tell you, the winner of this was the Pettit Indoor Marathon Relay. I stepped so far out of my comfort zone and was so proud of my personal performance and my team performance. 4 on the 4th will always have a special place in my heart, and I will continue to go year after year. But that one day at Pettit, I can't. So that's the winner. That's the one moving on. And I have to tell you, I'm not 100% sure that I have a race that's going to take the Pettit out. I think it could go all the way. All right. So before I sign off, remember this Tuesday, the next guest episode is going to drop, and you're really going to like this one. He's someone I thought of like right away to do it. I met him many years ago at a extra mile Friday night flight gathering, and since then our paths have now crossed a different way. The episode is not going to disappoint. Also, fun fact, next Sunday, of course, is the Chicago Marathon. I have never seen the marathon or been down there at all, but this year, as part of the group, I am volunteering as safety coordinator at mile 20. So I can't wait to share that experience I'm going to have with you. on a future episode. For now, though, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I value your time, and the fact that you would spend it listening to me talk is there's no words for me to express how much I appreciate that. For now, though, I will see you at the next start line. Peace out, everybody.